Just here. I just apologized to Professor Einstein for the weather. And he said it's all right, it's just water.
If science, like art, is to perform its mission truly and fully, its achievements must enter not only superficially, but with their inner meaning into the consciousness of people, of radioactive substances which are everywhere to be found mixed in the solid crust of the earth.
Atomkraft im Dienste der Menschheit heißt die Ausstellung der Vereinten Nationen, die den
twisting when it goes around. Of course, down in here. Well, we don't want a comprehensive story. Well, the man, and then the whole yoke, of course, goes around the floor. Dr. Einstein, would you look this way, please? That's it.
Profoundly influenced the course of modern science, but have laid the Albert Einstein, scientist and philosopher, Nobel laureate, loyal son of his people, friend of Israel. His daring speculations, coupled with deep researches in mathematical physics, have ranged from the microcosm of the atom to the macrocosm of interplanetary space.
Okay? Say when? All right, look, how about it, fellas?
Can't stand too long.
All right. All right. Next man. Hold it, Professor. Dr. Einstein, would you look this way, please? That's it.
Professor Albert Einstein.
Sit down! Sit down!
But it protects the world of man like a wishful dream. Only the creative forces are on told. None of the sinister and destructive ones which today more than ever jeopardize the happiness, the very existence of civilized humanity.
All right.
I am here in Brussels with the high privilege of officially dedicating the building which my Palestine brethren have erected as their contribution to the world's affairs. The thing that will strike the discerning observer about this structure is its wide nobility, the spirit of simplicity and harmony which pervades it.
Okay.
Member is forced to fight for his very life, even over and above the bigger economic struggle for survival. Nothing of this shows here. We see only the quiet, noble line of a building, and within it a presentation of the Palestine homeland. New and at once old age, a security tempered in thousands of years of bitter discord. Only such a people can just spirit of those who may fill this structure, find an understanding and appreciative public.
On many critical occasions in the past,
American, the dedication of the Palestine Pavilion is the answer of American Jewry to the Chamberlain black paper. Not only the answer of American Jewry, but the answer of world Jewry. For world Jewry is gathered symbolically today within the walls of the Palestine Pavilion. The Palestine Pavilion represents
Very nice. Very good. Show the two of them. that's all right. So the... Yeah. I'll shake it.
Cut the motor then. He doesn't get it. Come on, let's go. Come on, Jack.
Professor and Mrs. Einstein, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the city of San Diego and to the state of California. Dr. Einstein. Liebe Freunde, ich bin tief gerührt durch den überaus herzlichen Empfang, den Sie mir hier bereitet haben, und durch die schönen und hohen Worte, welche von Seiten aller an mich gerichtet worden sind.
Dr. Einstein, who gave the world its biggest headache, is back in California again with his wife. They've been fog-bound all night in San Pedro Harbor. The professor had a theory as to how they could land, but before he and the captain could figure it out, the fog had all gone away. Now he's going to the Institute of Technology in Pasadena to work with other distinguished scientists. There his theory will be thoroughly discussed and analyzed, and if it is what he says it is, why then everything will be all right, won't it? Of course, it might be possible that he's come here to find out what it's all about himself. We ought to send the Herr Doctor some of our contract bridge experts. They've got more theories than he has.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to receive this sign of appreciation and kindness from the Technion in.
What happened? Where'd he go? What happened? Hey everybody, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm film, except that was not 16. That was actually 35 transfer from the National Archives. We've been working on a bunch of films from some of those collections, and I was like, oh man, Albert Einstein talking. That's great. We so rarely hear Albert Einstein talking. And yeah, somebody commented one of those narrators was a real wise ass, like like really giving him the business. So anyways, let's watch some 16. Enjoy. This is about clouds and, wow, that is misspelled. Precipitation. Let me fix that spelling. Enjoy.
For worry. Little Cedar at the south end. The water spills over a... One of Earth's most amazing substances is one of its most common: water. Over a narrow range of temperature, water can be either a liquid, a solid, or a gas. And in the atmosphere, it takes all of these forms. Here it's changing from a gas to a liquid and back to a gas. So where does all of this airborne water come from? Actually, most of it is picked up over warm tropical oceans. This is because the higher the temperature, the more rapidly water evaporates. As the water evaporates, heat is carried away with the escaping vapor. That's why you cool off. It's hard to imagine the vast amount of water vapor entering the atmosphere through evaporation. The actual amount depends on temperature. The warmer the air, the more water it can hold. So as moist air is cooled, its vapor will begin condensing, an effect often seen on the surface of a cold glass, or just about anywhere moisture-laden air is cooled. Cooling of air that has become saturated with water vapor also produces clouds and fog. For example, when moist air at the lake's surface cools, you see the result, a thin fog. The temperature at which water vapor begins condensing is called the dew point. Clouds and fog mean that dew point temperature has been reached. Of course, dew point temperature also depends on how much water vapor is available. And that can vary tremendously, from about 4% here to less than 1/4% here. So at least two things affect the formation of clouds: amount of vapor present and temperature. But what if you could put a piece of this cloud stuff under a microscope? Would it show any kind of structure? With a plastic slide, some ice, and a breath tube, you can observe what clouds are made of: tiny spheres of water. If these microscopic drops were suspended in air, they'd be called cloud droplets. Cloud droplets can form or vanish in seconds, depending on the dew point. This rapid shift of water between vapor and liquid is at work wherever clouds are building or dissolving, something that can be observed more easily if time is sped up photographically. The results make normal activities look a little strange, but time-lapse studies are useful for observing the behavior of clouds. For example, these clouds are forming over a mountain range, but as they drift away over the desert, their cloud droplets begin evaporating in the warm desert air, cloud behavior that is hard to see in real time. Cloud droplets form or vanish, governed by temperature and amount of water vapor. But there's one more ingredient in a cloud droplet recipe: microscopic particles within these droplets that act as a starting point for condensation. There is usually no shortage of these airborne particles called condensation nuclei. Smoke and industrial pollution contribute heavily. And all of these microscopic particles circulate, ready to play a role in cloud building. Even far from smoke or pollution, a wave-swept coast can supply seeds for clouds. When sea spray evaporates, tiny airborne crystals of salt are left floating in air, nuclei for cloud droplets. Clouds, masses of airborne water droplets, constantly forming and vanishing, depending on temperature, the amount of water vapor present, and the availability of condensation nuclei. But a cloud droplet is very different in size from a raindrop. If this sphere represents a raindrop, then this represents a single cloud droplet. And this speck within the droplet, a condensation nucleus for that one cloud droplet. One way raindrops form is that cloud droplets start bumping into each other, larger ones gobbling up smaller ones as they fall through a cloud. Another rainmaking process begins high in clouds where it's cold enough for ice crystals to form. Dropping into warmer air, the frozen water melts, forming raindrops. Mountains can have a significant effect on clouds. This is because air, forced upward by the mountain, cools, causing its water vapor to condense. Driving up a mountain road, the higher you go, the denser the clouds become, producing rain. And as you go higher, rain turns to wet, mushy snow. Climbing the mountain, temperature falls rapidly and the snow gets heavier. But then, surprisingly, at the summit, precipitation may stop. The other side of the mountain is clear and inviting. What happened? Uplifting of air by the mountain produced such effective cooling that it condensed out most of the water as rain and snow, leaving clear air on the backside. So sometimes, when it's storming on the windward side, this sunny backside, with its dry, powdery snow, is a good place to be. From a distance, you can see the puffy cumulus clouds that formed over the mountain. A cumulus that becomes large enough to produce heavy precipitation is a cumulonimbus, or thunderhead. A cumulonimbus can become a towering giant, clearly visible from 200 miles up. A thunderhead gets started when moist air begins to rise, setting up a kind of circulation that draws in more vapor-laden air. The overall process is called convection, which means a kind of circulation produced by heat. It's easy to create a laboratory model of a thunderhead using a small tank of water, a heat source, and colored dyes that make the convection patterns visible. Directly above the heat source, a column of fluid, made visible by the dye, is set in motion. Then, as the rising column cools, a process sped up by ice at the sides, the water begins sinking. These vertical currents, started by heat, show the kind of flow patterns found in thunderheads. A cumulonimbus may get started when warm, moisture-laden air starts to rise. But what keeps it building is heat generated within the cloud itself by the process of condensation. The more vapor a cumulonimbus converts into water droplets, the more heat is released. And this heat of condensation is what drives these huge convection clouds. Once started, a thunderhead acts like a chimney, pulling in moist air and growing until winds aloft tear away its top and stop further upward cloud building. A big cumulonimbus can be a dangerous cloud. Its turbulent, lightning-charged interior still contains mysteries, but there is one point of agreement. If you're piloting a light plane, stay away from thunderheads. But carefully flying through parts of a thunderhead is exactly what these atmospheric scientists intend to do. They're using a modified sailplane and a good deal of experience to probe the cloud and find out more about processes going on in its dark interior. A sailplane's advantage over powered craft is that it cannot itself become a source of contamination when collecting samples of condensation nuclei from within the cloud. But the pilot has another advantage, for his craft is a sensitive instrument that can feel out air currents, allowing him to stay in the cloud, radioing back a stream of data on conditions within the thunderhead. Spreading over the sky at about the same levels as the tops of big thunderheads are wispy clouds that produce no rain or snow, at least not directly. That's because most of the water in these cirrus clouds is in the form of ice. From above the atmosphere, cirrus clouds can have a rippled appearance. Although they produce no rain or snow, there may be a relationship between cirrus clouds and the denser clouds that do. One theory is that cirrus layer ice crystals may be carried into storm clouds and become nuclei for snowflakes. In temperate regions, much of the snow and rain falls from layered clouds called stratus, formed by air that rises slowly and evenly. Stratus layers are often formed over oceans and may cover vast areas, becoming part of the great weather cycle that brings water to the land. Drop by drop, channeling into countless streams, water is returned to its ocean reservoir, only to be picked up again and condensed into clouds.
So we're at that point where we're getting rolling thunderstorms every afternoon and evening. Frustrating. What else we got? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is another... this one's weird. It's great. And even the title tipped me off. I was like, have a Coke. What is this about? Holy cow. So, try to figure out what have a Coke is all about. Write it in the comments. Enjoy.
Have some coffee.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
What country are you all from?
Ethiopia.
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 Oh, how wonderful. So glad you could come.
Thank you. Thank you.
As I was saying, why not?
To begin with, my arrival, Gizao Kivle, scholarship student in economics at the University of California, was anything but propitious. On arriving, I found that all my baggage had been accidentally routed to some place called Watsonville.
Mr. Kaiselgawa, please come to the information counter.
I somehow missed the representative the university had arranged to meet me. And having spent in New York most of the money I had changed, I found that the draft on the Bank of Ethiopia was useless at night. The first person I met was a policeman who arrested me at once. My command of the language departed, and I was unable to speak in my own behalf or understand my offense. I cannot describe to you my feeling as I finally entered the city of Los Angeles as a criminal. I had no idea where the police were taking me. It was, however, not to prison. I had apparently arrived, somewhat irregularly, at the University of California at Los Angeles. On this huge campus, my scholarship, which seemed so bountiful and honor from the government, proved something less than adequate. To save money, I entered a cooperative student dormitory. Breakfast is served early and is very unusual. My roommate is an American from Arizona studying civil engineering. He is failing calculus and is very uncommunicative. And he probably finds me the same way. For 5 months now, I have had time for little besides study, worry about money, and wonder why I ever came here.
We're going to have an examination.
The English examination I passed in Addis Ababa with such fluency is simply not the same language spoken here. The constant series of quizzes I find irritating. Most are transparently designed to inform the professor whether you've read his assignment. Of course I haven't read his assignment. There is no time to read assignments. Aside from the library, my class buildings, and the dormitory, I know little of the campus and less of the city. I feel like the village idiot treated with polite deference by my colleagues. It is maddening. Occasional walks in the evening with advice and friendship from my own people were genuinely pleasurable moments. But when the year's examinations were finished, I felt it pointless to continue here in frustration, loneliness, and poverty. I was about to wire for passage home when I received notification that my grades were very high and I had been accepted by my department as teaching assistant. Fantastic. I shall stay another year. But if it is anything like the last one, I am leaving. But German,
Take a reservation.
You mean it gets worse?
Old customs and strange rites are practiced by the natives.
Well, welcome to the student union. What's your name?
Hailu Fullas.
Oh, you speak English very well.
Thank you. Giza, you will see that when you get out of that dormitory. My second year began with the teaching assistant's salary too. If you share, you can afford an apartment, but they're difficult to find. Of course, there are no servants in this country, so the men often cook for themselves. We attempted this with some success. We were helped somewhat by our landlady, who turned out to be a kindly soul at heart, who developed a motherly interest in our welfare.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I see you've moved in.
Yes, sort of. I'm just glad that you came in. Would you like some beer? My landlady.
Were you taking language?
Excuse me, my landlady.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Aren't you my landlady?
Well, whether it's if we were drinking wine here today, how would you say wine?
Wayne.
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 It almost sounds like English, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. And what kind of wine do you actually drink? Is there some special type in Ethiopia?
Yeah, there is one special type we call saris.
And what's it made of?
It's made of grapes.
The name of your country. I'm always mispronouncing it.
Ethiopia. Ethiopia.
Ethiopia?
P. No, P. Ethiopia.
But for all the casual and relaxed socializing, the second year brings a difficult decision. My specialized research is complete. Should I go home now, or what seems increasingly possible, like my American colleagues, stay on and work toward the highest degree offered in my field? But it's taken you 5 years, Tamro, and you've not finished yet.
As a matter of fact, my dear Hyden, my government has just inquired. Tamro, are you still a student or a refugee?
What takes so long?
Have some coffee.
Oh, thank you. Thank
What country are you all from?
Ethiopia.
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 Oh, how wonderful. So glad you could come.
Thank you.
As I was saying, why does it take 5 years to finish?
This sort of thing for one. And then I have to spend a lot of time giving you all advice. However, I'm beginning to feel more pressing obligations along that line.
Better hurry up, honey, you're late.
Okay. So, there is less time than ever, not counting my 2 jobs. But with all the demands, I'm still satisfied. In no other system could I enroll first for a limited study, continue on becoming a member of the staff, complete a program for a doctorate, and still support a family. This whole university is filled with married students somehow working, raising families, and studying at the same time. Now, this life cannot be described as conducive to serene contemplation. Yet, somewhere during the press of one's job, professional studies, the inevitable destructions of a material society,
Well, my car broke, you know.
and the more pleasurable demands of marriage. You find a few moments to reflect on the point of all this.
Well, I don't know, as usual, shouldn't start again. እሺ ጨረቃ ደመቀች ጨረቃ ደመቀች ጨረቃዋ ደመቀች ጨረቃዋ ደመቀች ጨረቃዋ ደመቀች ጨረቃዋ ትደምቃለች ጨረቃዋ ትደምቃለች.
One day, in the middle of a class I give for the Peace Corps, I really felt for the first time the irony that I, an Ethiopian, was giving instruction to Americans who were going to my country to assist Ethiopians. I knew it was time for me to return for whatever contribution I am capable of making to my own land and culture. It seems that I have confirmed a position in Addis Ababa. I shall return on acceptance of my thesis here, probably next month.
Congratulations. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. So you all will have to find yourselves another guide in this exotic part of the world. And there, I would say, is someone who is in need of much guidance and counseling.
Welcome to the Student Center.
Thank you.
What is your name?
Desta.
Well, Desta, that's interesting. How long have you been in America?
2 hours.
Oh, well, have a Coke.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A nice lady.
ሸጋነሽ በእውነቱ ፀጉርሽ ሐር ይመስላል ጥርስሽ በረዶ የሰራሽ እንድሆን አምላክ ምድር ወርዶ ዓይንሽ የጠራ ነው ጎንጭሽ እንደክረሎ
That was pretty great. I like it's of a time, early mid-60s, and yeah, pretty hilarious. All right, what do I want to show you next? I have so many things. Let me I'll just show you this temporarily. Enjoy.
Disaster can come in strange shapes and forms. For Hopewell, Virginia, the shape was a huge 600-foot sulfur tanker heading down the James River at dawn. Suddenly, approaching the Hopewell Bridge, it loses steering. The ship crashes into the bridge, sending 2 long spans and 4 cars plunging into the river. 3,000 cars a day use this bridge, the only one around. People commuting to work in Hopewell. now cut off from their jobs and apt to be for a very long time. The solution? A free ferry service, quickly set up by the Virginia Office of Emergency Services and the State Highway Department.
Man, I tell you, it's been a lifesaver.
Civil defense. It helps in peacetime, too. And this was another time when civil defense paid off.
Thank you, civil defense. So I was going to show you a civil defense film, but it's a little depressing. So I'm going to show this, another odd film from, this is called New York University. And I don't know the gist of it. Like, it seems to be following some young girl who's a student. But I'm not sure. Let's watch it together and figure it out. Enjoy.
Sandy Crane has started a new life. And even after a month of going to college in New York, she still feels every morning it is all a wonderful adventure, different from everything she's ever done before. Because Sandy is just beginning, she is especially aware of the people around her, especially conscious of the enormity of the world ahead of her. Sandy, now at 18, feels she is one of many, very many. Because she will continue for the rest of her life to be one of many, because she wants to live with people and work with people, she has chosen to start right in the middle of things. She has chosen to try to learn what people are, what they want to be, how they organize the complexities of their lives, what their goals are, and how they strive to reach them. And so, Sandy decided to go to college in the very midst of the world for which college will prepare her. For here at the very heart of the bustle, the clang, the rumbling, the liveliness, the confusion that seems to accompany progress in our time, there is a quieter place, dedicated as a bridge between the old and the new. There is a university, now over 120 years old, where young men and women are being prepared for tomorrow. Within its academic walls, New York University is like other universities. Like freshmen in colleges all over the country, Sandy must attend an orientation class.
For that college education which you seek, you have come to us, to New York University. You will be with us for a period of years, and in that time, we shall endeavor to give you a knowledge of the theories and techniques which you will put into practice in later life in your chosen fields. We'll make an effort also to acquaint you with the elements of those arts and sciences which constitute American culture, and in addition, we shall teach you understanding of and respect for the democratic traditions and the moral and spiritual values of American life.
Such values are hard to see at first. What a challenge to a university, to help young people perceive order in this chaos, to help them understand how the parts relate. If we are newcomers or if we are young, it is hard to see beneath the mask of expediency. The city at work is a colorful pageant that tends to disguise the basic quest of many men and many women to earn a livelihood with the knowledge, the skills, the abilities at their disposal. The human values are often veiled by the physical superstructures that contain them. Imposing, the student thinks, but where do I fit into all this? The university has many techniques for helping him find a path into the world that beckons. It provides individual advice and counseling. It even helps find undergraduate jobs that may later turn into careers. But But it helps most by developing comprehension that goes beneath the surface, insight that can penetrate the masks. By its regular courses of study, it reveals the reason for things, the relations of form to content. The rhythm of New York University life isn't syncopated to match the tempo of the city. But somehow, the reality of the surroundings enters into the atmosphere of the classrooms.
From the shaded lower half. So we see that unity is a fundamental property of living things. Lights, please. There are those who say there is an analogy between these insects, unitedly performing the task laid down by their structure, and the cells of a living body toiling for the greatest good of the whole.
Why aren't human beings like that? It seems to me that ants and bees have better sense than we have.
Well, many people have thought that. If unity is so important, they say, why not model human society on the beehive?
Because it wouldn't be any fun. All they do is work.
Yes, but on the whole, theirs is a very peaceful society. The sense of unity in bees and ants is quite a contrast to the very rugged individualism of the tiger or the chicken hawk.
Doesn't nature provide another alternative?
As a matter of fact, it does. There's the penguin. The emperor penguin appears instinctively to combine respect for the individual with a high degree of social unity. But we should remember that lower organisms, especially the bees and the ants, have little capacity for changing their living conditions. Man, in contrast, has great flexibility for development of his environment. This gives him unlimited potentialities for improving his living conditions. Are there any questions?
But the students at the university have as their first task the business of improving themselves. They come from all parts of the state and from most other states of the Union. Indeed, from most of the countries of the world, each bringing something of his own to add to the richness and variety of the student body. Metropolitan, and therefore cosmopolitan, the social atmosphere of the university tends to break down the barriers that often exist between races, creeds, or economic classes. NYU students working together, often eating together, fall naturally into habits of spending leisure time together, or into taking part in the interfraternity, interclass, and intramural athletic programs. One of the university's most important roles is to help the students learn sound habits of relaxation and recreation. And so it provides the facilities which young people need for trying their skills and learning to perfect them. That is why the sports program of NYU accents informal competition. That is why the playing fields at University Heights are usually filled with students for whom athletics are a part of college life, rather than a reason for it. Some of them make the varsity squads, of course, and represent their school in intercollegiate competition. But the famous Violet teams are only publicized aspects of an athletic program available to every student in all of the schools of the university. The buildings of NYU in many parts of the city are as varied as the purposes for which they are used. Some of them are libraries, where a big part of education is training in finding things out for oneself. In other words, is learning to learn. For the young student is not trained to memorize facts, but rather to know where to find them and how to interpret them and use them when he does find them. Some students who want to be near the city prefer the atmosphere of the spacious NYU campus that occupies the ridge high over the Harlem River. Here they find the sense of leisure and quiet that is usually the mark of a college town. And although this college town has a population of 12 million, it has room in it for individual growth. It has time in it for the gradual development of each student's personal capacities. It has time for those most precious moments in a student's day, the moments when he seems to be doing nothing at all, the moments when he's thinking through, digesting what he has learned, when he suddenly catches a meaning that has been hidden from him.
That's not as funny as it sounds. When people are disease-ridden and starving,
They can be forgiven for devoting what energy they have to the struggle to survive. That's why the World Health Organization and Food and Agriculture Organization have been set up by the United Nations.
But even if people are well-fed and healthy, that doesn't necessarily mean they're interested in democracy. Look at Hitler Germany.
Something else, then, is necessary.
Freedom.
Freedom?
Freedom to think. That's right. I think another thing that's needed is education. People need ideas.
I would agree with that. What sort of ideas?
Well, ideas about whatever would tend to make their lives happier and more satisfying.
Good. What is basic, then, is a decent standard of living, combined with a freely available education. The kind of education that enables people to make choices and know what they're doing. To make laws that reflect the basic sense of right and justice of the community. Without these, a people loses hope.
And once Al is aware of the importance of such hope, he can recognize it in the life around him, even when it is hidden by the traditional banter with which American undergraduates disguise their serious thoughts. Tom is an engineering student. Al cannot understand Tom's technical drawings, but he can appreciate Tom's ambition, so different from his own.
I'm impressed. You ought to be. I've been knocking my brains out over this for weeks. What's this? Oh, it's nothing. I just want to see how the plane would look in flight.
You're an artist. A fellow can draw a picture like that, doesn't have to mess around with a T-square and a triangle.
Mess around, he says.
Creating beauty is more important.
I still say a plane in the sky is worth two on the wall.
Listen, Tom, I'm due down at the Metropolitan Museum of Art this afternoon. How about joining me?
Me at an art museum?
Well, listen, come along with me and we'll go for some spaghetti afterwards.
Okay, you win. I guess I can look at the Da Vinci's. He was a good designer, too.
Tom, I'll grant that bridges, axe handles, and airplanes are both beautiful and useful. But art is more than that. Art expresses ideas and emotions, hopes, fears, and visions. Peter Bruegel painted this picture, well, because he loved people and loved life. And he wanted to convey his feelings to others.
Well, I guess you're right, Al. But the guy who invented the harvesting machine did a lot more for the farmers, in my opinion.
Fortunately, perhaps, Al and Tom will continue to disagree. Their very difference is a bond between them and adds a new dimension to each. That is why the university feels so rich in the diversity of her sons and daughters. The founders dreamed, well over a century ago, of a private university for all the people. They meant all creeds and all classes. They meant all gifts and all talents. They meant all the diverse arts by which man lives and adorns life. The university they had in mind, like the city it was to serve, would give youth a chance to develop its own strengths rather than be pressed into tight and arbitrary molds. And so, Al, the undergraduate majoring in political science, becomes Al, the law school freshman. The move from one faculty to another being no more abrupt than the physical move from one building to another. Tom, the engineering undergraduate, is similarly transformed into Tom, the graduate engineering student. In his case, he has not even changed buildings, for several of his senior elective courses had been held in the famous Guggenheim Aeronautical Laboratory. Now he's going on to more advanced work, to problems of theory and design, to the subjects for which he has had a special flair. Graduate work is already a start of what will probably become his life's work. And this is just as true for the students of dentistry, or the students in the School of Medicine. They have come from colleges all over the country, but they are soon at home at NYU, and in the city where there are facilities and opportunities for research that would be impossible in almost any other community in the world. Many of the students in NYU's graduate schools are already professionals in their chosen fields, but want to go on improving themselves by taking courses under well-known experts. In fact, this is almost the rule for the thousands of students who use the university at night. These men are bankers during the day, but they come back to class at the Graduate School of Business near Wall Street 2 nights a week to listen to leaders in the world of management and finance, to learn the principles that underlie their daily activities. But Washington Square is still, in a sense, the center of university life. The Washington Square of Mark Twain, of Henry James, of O. Henry. It is like a campus nowadays, re-echoing to talk of cosines and of Alexandrine verse. What was once the center of the country's cultural life is still the center of a smaller, more concentrated intellectual pattern. Washington Square has changed with the times. As the society Edith Wharton once wrote about declined, new people came to live in the Greenwich Village that surrounds the square, and the university has become part of the new community life as it was part of the old. Sandy is a senior now in the School of Education. She practices the theory she is learning in a settlement house near the school building. This is a laboratory too, and the specimens are very much alive. Sandy is both a student and a teacher, as she plays an active part in community affairs. But the play workshop is over by 4, and Sandy has the rest of the spring afternoon to spend with a friend. There's always something new to discover, to think about, to talk about. The ordinary activities of daily life become part of a fiesta in the vivid atmosphere of the village. Here is the color, the charm, the unexpected that we seek out and enjoy in Rome or Paris or New Orleans. This is the culture not found in a classroom, for it must be kept vital by the people who live it day after day. In such an atmosphere, the arts flourish and learning is respected. Paintings and books are natural elements of the scene. So you don't pass a counter without instinctively going over the titles. Often you are rewarded beyond expectation. Just look at this. Fits right into what Bob was talking about in the advertising course this morning. That covers the devices for attention and the layout. Very well. You're dismissed, ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Sperry, could I talk to you for a moment?
Of course, Bob. What's on your mind?
This. I picked it up at a second-hand bookshop yesterday.
In Cartier-Latin. April 1898. Say, this is a real curiosity. So you plan to quit New York for Paris in the spring?
No, it isn't that. I just like what they've done with the ads.
Oh, I see. Well, not bad. Sentimental. Beardsley without the decadence.
Dr. Sperry, I think they tried to do something pretty important. By having the ads designed by the same artists who did the illustrations, they gave the whole magazine a unified style.
I wonder if it really is unity. It seems to me the unity is superficial. It may be that the fashion of the costumes and the drawings just gives the effect of unity.
I think it's a terrific idea. A modern magazine with really modern designs and illustrations that achieved unity would be a sensation.
Well, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you make a project out of it?
A project?
Yes. Do some research. Get some real answers to some real questions.
What sort of questions?
Well, for instance, you can make a poll of a cross-section of the public. Find out what they'd think of the idea.
You mean walk up to people on the street?
No. Go and see a couple of advertisers and see what their reaction is. Get some costs.
Why'd I ever go near that bookstore?
And when you get your layout finished, I'll send you up to see Mr. Coles at Look Magazine. I'm pretty sure he'll give you an honest opinion of what he thinks of it.
Thanks, Dr. Sperry. Thanks a million.
Fine. Bye, Bob. Let me know how it works out. Bob's project is in the nature of an experiment, and like Sandy, he has the city as a laboratory in which to carry it out. It is hard to say what makes going to college in a big city so stimulating an experience. What gives the students the feeling of being in touch with the world rather than just learning about it from a distance? For one thing, since their campus has almost no physical limits, they live for 4 years in an endless series of changing environments, each complete, each different. But more than that, there is the day-to-day proximity to the people of the city, the people who are all peoples, the people who are intelligent and dull, rich and poor, selfish and kindly, serious and gay. It is because of the variety of its people that the city helps us to develop new tastes, tempts us to try new experiences, enables us to enjoy ourselves in new ways. The city, often called an education in itself, is even a more satisfactory educational experience when it is tied to the disciplines of formal learning, when it is the workshop where we see the ideas and theories applied to life. Economics is not dry when it has to do with real things that people want to buy or sell. Sociology is meaningful when populations become people. Culture comes alive when it is expressed in the dramatic terms of the theater. This is fun, but it is also language, communications, philosophy, anthropology. When we laugh or cry or are intrigued, we are also learning. The city can be a great arena where we comprehend the social forces that are analyzed in the lecture hall. Bob was at the familiar meeting place a few days later, but in a different mood.
Hi.
Hello. What are you doing here?
Waiting for you.
What's the matter? Why so glum?
I got turned down. They think the idea smells.
About the unified ads?
Yeah. I went to 2 magazines. They didn't laugh at me or anything, but they gave me plenty of reasons why the idea was no good.
Oh, that's a shame, Bob.
I really thought I had something. Worst of it is, I have a date with Sperry this afternoon to tell him all about my glorious triumph. Say, will you come along and back me up?
Sure I will. Not that you need it.
Oh, don't I?
So they turned it down, eh, Bob?
Oh, they were nice enough about it, though.
They certainly should have been. It's a nice layout.
They said so, too. But they told me I was kind of neglecting to see that advertisers are anxious to make people like their product, not the magazine.
Well, you can't blame them for that, can you?
No. But I don't see why they can't think of both.
They do, Bob. The magazine has to sell or the advertising won't reach enough people. They both, the magazine and the advertisers, have a common purpose.
You mean to try to get to as many people as possible?
That's right.
Then why not go all the way and use Bob's idea?
Because that would rob the advertisers of their individuality. Uniformity alone is dull and monotonous.
I think I'm beginning to get it, Bob. Remember that lecture we had in bio last year? The one when we talked about bees and tigers and penguins? The idea was that the penguins kept their individuality, but worked together for the common good.
Well, I had a half-baked idea and it flopped.
Not at all, Bob. Not at all. A failure like yours is pretty close to a triumph. There's nothing wrong with failure. Through failure, you learn what's first rate.
After all, that's one of the reasons we go to college.
Of course, so you can make mistakes where someone will help you correct them. But more than that, so that you can learn what's best and learn the best ways of achieving it. That's what the university is for. It's a giant memory. It enables us to build on the successes of our ancestors. And sometimes, Bob, on their failures.
That is how all men have learned the hard lessons throughout the course of history. The Hall of Fame at New York University is full of men to whom success came after repeated failure. Men like Walt Whitman, who spent a lifetime revising his first book of poems. Or Abraham Lincoln, who won the presidency by losing a campaign for the Senate. There are men, too, like General Gorgas, a distinguished graduate of the university, and men like Samuel F.B. Morse, a brilliant member of the university's faculty. Their place of honor above the city is a fitting one. For the centers of all great civilizations have been great cities. And through its university, the strength and the vitality of a city are constantly renewed. Only through the development of the minds and talents of many, many individuals can the American dream come true, generation after generation.
That kind of just quickly ended, and I just took a big bite out of my sandwich. So, sorry about that. Anyways, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you liked this odd variety of stuff that I got from National Archives. I didn't use the scanner today because we're in the midst of moving a bunch of stuff, and so I don't have the ability to just go back to the stacks and pull something. So everything's a little bit more of a challenge. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. I will definitely be digitizing stuff again soon, but not for right now. But hopefully it doesn't matter, because we already have so much stuff that we've already digitized that we haven't shown you. So I'm excited to show you all that stuff. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. You can also donate via the Super Thanks button, or go to ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. Thanks for tuning in today. I very much appreciate your eyeballs and your comments. And we will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Yeah. See you soon. Bye.